way that like you're hitting it is that the branching narratives have this exponential growth of production expenses, and the interesting thing like Castaway dealt with is that like you didn't have to deal with scripting 2 shows based on the cow and the can because you were dealing with the changes right there, and that's like a real-time interaction. Whereas if you were filming that, you'd be shooting 2, 4, 8, 16.
Which is why technology is going to have such an impact on this area in the next sort of 2 or 3 years with machinima. So at DigiFest a couple of years ago, Lisa's team showed a fantastic example of a story about kind of an assassin who's trying to go clean. Lisa, who produced it again? Kumar, yeah. And it was fantastic because as a user, it was in real time over, was it Xbox? And if you wanted to preset your limit, so I want a PG version and I want it in French, and I want the character to start here, and then off you go. So it felt almost like a game because it was being generated on the fly, but you were choosing the narrative. And the only other example you could do, I guess, if it was like live action, would be to have a group of actors on the stage with earpieces who are taking instruction live on their performance and the narrative.
But to get back to the concept of success, I mean, HBO's Voyeur, which was, I'll wade right into the controversy, was done by Big Spaceship, and nobody else should take credit for it. I mean, it was a critical success. You can't deny that. The numbers weren't great, right? And you've had experience with that. So it leads me to question whether I mean, I don't hear people jumping up and down saying, "Where's my next Mist?" Right? Like, I mean, is there a market for it? I mean, that goes back to
they all playing games.
Yeah. Have games? I mean, games. I would argue. I don't think games are getting any more sophisticated in their narrative properties. I mean, I think they're getting more sophisticated in how they look and how they're rendering character, but I don't know that they're getting any more sophisticated.
Sure, do you want to?
Sure. Is this thing on? Hi. I mean, I've experimented with a bit of interactive storytelling in my time. And I want to sort of look at the idea of authorship. Because as an author of an interactive story, I always felt it was kind of like some sort of, like a clever wank on my part saying, look how smart I am, I'm giving you these options. But it's always frustrating that I'm still by myself doing that. And as an audience member, I'm always frustrated by the limiting choices. And maybe I'm just trying to recapture my glory days as a teenager playing Dungeons & Dragons with friends, which is the only really true interactive storytelling experience I can think of. But then you have something like American Idol, which is the most popular show around, that is an interactive storytelling show. So how does the concept of authorship fit in there? Is it really just choosing between prescribed choices, or can you think of a way currently that's out there, an example, where the audience is truly empowered to become an author without limit?
YouTube?
I have a bizarre answer on that, which is that I actually, to use the D&D reference and the American Idol, like American Idol has tons of rules. Like there's a real context. You only get to vote for the final 5 or something, and they sing twice and all these things. And D&D is sort of similar in that there's these levels. There's quite a lot of context around the story. I only reference it because I was aware of a very open-ended role-playing game that was based on books, and it would allow you to set it in the future, in the past, on a boat, on a plane, whatever, and it actually didn't succeed very well because it was essentially just a blank page, and it gave people no starting point to tell the story except that blankness to it. So I think for me, the constraints actually helped the storytelling.
What about The Sims?
I was going to say, The Sims is a great example. Sorry, just to mark quickly, I would say that, and this is going to probably sound this is where I get kind of weird. I sort of think that data visualization and, sorry, and the creation of authorial context under which you can visualize other people's authorship within the context of that. So I'll just use a real basic example. Do you know 10 by 10? 10 by 10 is news stories that are sort of running at any given moment. It's a data visualization thing that allows you to see in basically a tapestry, or if you drill down, sort of what the most popular news stories are around the world. And when you get there, there's a visual tapestry that indicates to you right away what the story is. What is everybody sort of sharing as an experience in terms of the story? And that was an amazing thing to see when the U.S. Airways plane had landed in the Hudson. Right? How people were feeling, what was important to them. And the context was so strongly articulated by the author from that visualization tool that it really does feel like there's a sense of story being articulated there. And certainly if you take that further, as a writer, you can certainly provide a stronger context in that and have your own voice heard, as well as having the voice of users as contributors to that authorial control.
I mean, I think the real answer to that is that it depends on the experience that you're creating, because ultimately the role of the author is twofold in interactive storytelling. It's the creator who's created the framework, and then it's the person who feels like an author evolving that framework. And depending on what your story is, the framework that you've set up, then the author has different roles and different amounts of responsibility between the two of them. And it's really hard to set one sort of rule. And that's, I think, one of the problems that we keep talking about is there's no one model. There's no one framework. The context changes between the story, between the platform, between whatever the number of variables are. And so it's you got to kind of feel it out. And how do you do that in a way that is satisfying for everybody? And can it be satisfying for everybody? How do you create meaning? I mean, it's such a big question.
One of the things also to that is that as an author, I'm sure you've got it running through your head that I can't start with 5 options because that's going to take me in 25 different places, and that's never going to get produced like that. So right there are limitations, and I think it would be great if those limitations just came off and see what it would be creatively, and then start worrying about the budgets, which will never come, that sort of thing. But that's the next step.
Right. We'll crowdsource that part.